The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, coming to you cordless, everybody. It's Thursday, January 25th, 2024. In these United States of America, it's 11:02 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States, 8:02 p.m. on the West Coast, 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Sydney, Australia. And here where I'm sitting in Northeast Minneapolis in Central Time, it's 2 minutes after 10 p.m. I am Jim Peters, and you are watching Jim Peters at Night. I didn't check the count. I think this is show number 79. I'm not sure. We'll find out on Monday whether I'm right or not. All right, so what's going on tonight? Our guest is Marc Myrsell. He is named Bigfooter of the Year, the Bigfoot Hunter of the Year by the Bigfoot Times Magazine, whose editor Daniel Perez has been on the show previously, and we're hoping to have him back again soon. But Marc has a very interesting specialty here, and that is he basically knows everything about what is referred to in the Bigfoot lore as the Ape Canyon incident of 1924. And in some ways, you could say this is the Roswell of Bigfoot hunting in some ways. I'm really curious to talk about this. So we'll get to the details later. I mean, he knows a lot. Also, he helped find the cabin where this happened and the mine where this happened too. He found both of them. And people have been looking for them for like freaking 100 years, and he found both of them. So he knows his stuff. So we're looking forward to talking to him. So that's tonight. Monday, we have our first monthly month in review panel, which is basically just an excuse for all the old panelists from Calling News to get together and yak. That's basically what it's going to be. We got Tim Conaway, current running for president of the United States, Don Zorro, an intelligence officer, goes around the world killing people, but he won't tell us about it. And Larry Newman. Larry is a bail bondsman in Joplin, Missouri, and he likes to come on. He's a Bigfoot investigator too, a legitimate one. He actually works for the Bigfoot Field Research Organization, that BFRO. He's one of their certified investigators, and he runs around the country and he investigates Bigfoot sightings. We got the Bigfoot going on here, man. And so, we had Stan Gordon on last Thursday, and he's been studying this Bigfoot thing now for 40 years too. Really interesting. I brought this up before, but it still really fascinates me, and I got to ask Marc about this too. So the Bigfoot people are basically separated in two distinct camps. One thinks it's a undiscovered primate. Okay, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I've told you, they didn't discover gorillas until 1855. They didn't discover the giant squid until about 1980, I think it was. And that had been rumored for thousands of years. And they only finally caught one in 1980. And so, it's perfectly logical that there could be some primate running around the forest in the United States that we haven't discovered. However, Stan Gordon and some other people are of the opinion of this is a really, really weird animal that seems to be what they, for lack of a better term, interdimensional in nature. So, and the Bigfoot hunters that I talked to are very split on this. I know that Larry just thinks they're a primate. Larry, I don't think I'm talking on turn here. Larry said he's not seen a Bigfoot with his own eyes, but he watched a Bigfoot family through an infrared camera in the dead of night for about an hour. And he said that convinced him. He was a skeptic until that happened. He was doing investigations for BFRO, but he said he didn't actually believe it until he saw that. And, all right, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. So anyway, we're looking forward to talking to Marc. So we got the guys from the old Calling News crew coming on Monday. And then we're taking a week off from Tuesday, January 30th through Monday the 5th. So we're coming back on Tuesday the 6th. I'm going to announce this on Monday either way. I might do a little pop-up show on Friday night, February 2nd. It's exactly halfway between that time. And I don't know, and I can't even remember now. This is terrible. We've only been doing this. Monday marks our 6-month anniversary doing this and our 80th show, both. So I'm not certain if did we do a Friday? I'm going to go back and look if we did a Friday show as an experiment. I think maybe we did. I can't remember, but we might do another one this coming week. So in other words, we take the whole week off. It's a Friday because I'm kind of curious to see what would happen. I mean, I've kind of always got the assumption nobody's sitting at their computer watching videos on Friday night. But what do I know? I might seriously. Years ago, you wanted to put television on that people saw, you put it on Sunday night. That was because everyone was home for the weekend. They were just settling down. They're going to go to bed. Now weekends in TV land, weekends are shot. It's like nobody watches TV on the weekends at all. Things change. Before, you wanted to get your band noticed. You went on late night television. You wanted a gig on Carson or Letterman. Now it's morning TV. Oh, that was recently. Now TV doesn't even work. So it doesn't even, it's bullshit. No one cares. So things change, man. So yeah. What do we got going on today? So that's it. Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna call us. You call us. So we got you can call us video call. Go to gemini.com/call. It's that little right here. See that address right there, and click on the big blue button, and you're in the queue. You want to text us in real time. It's that number right here, 408-458-5088. I'm going to make an announcement when we come back from vacation in February. We are going to be changing our audio feed yet again. So we got 7 video sites that run this program, and if you go to gemini.com/watch, there's a list of links to all of them there. We recommend Rumble. It's the only real one I really pay any attention to. We've been doing this now 6 months. We got 1,700 um, followers on Rumble, which I'm totally grateful for. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Now, if you go, we got about 1,000 followers on our channel, and about 700 who have followed me personally. Even though the only thing I do on Rumble is this channel, that's it. But still, I guess people. It depends on where you press a button. I have no idea what they got going on. But anyway, that's what it is. So it's about 1,700 total. A little more than that, if I'm right. So yeah, so you can there's 7 places you can watch this. There's one place you can listen to it audio only. That's on Spreaker Live, and you have to have the Spreaker app to listen to it live in real time. And Spreaker just sent me an announcement this morning that they're going to kill the live broadcasting. So there's only 3. You might find this amazing for all this talk about live podcasting, all this crap. There's only 3 outlets that allow for live audio broadcasting on the web, and we've gone through 2 of them. I'm going to sign up now for the 3rd one, which I think is by far the best, but it's also by far the most expensive. So, and you might think, well, it does, podcasting, the audio quality is pretty much the same everywhere. It really doesn't matter, but I'm gonna shell out for this so you guys can do this, and also it might be kind of cool too. I debated this for a long time, but now Spreaker's going to pull the plug, so screw it. And so yeah, that's the thing. I started the show, it was supposed to be a radio show. There's not supposed to be a picture, but it came, and I did want to do a live, but it was so obvious that it's so much easier to do live video than live audio. And you think, well, technically that's more complex, and it is, but there's way more there's way more demand to do live video than live audio only. And I think that's what drives this whole thing. So anyway, so there you go. So we got Marc Myrsell coming on in about 15 minutes. Now, what I want to talk about tonight. I find this interesting because I'm a freaking old codger baby boomer, and I actually remember this, which you might find amazing. Today, January 25th, 1961. Let me do some math. What is that? 63 years ago was the very first live televised presidential news conference given by John F. Kennedy. I mean, of any president, but it was given by John F. Kennedy. He had only been president 5 days. So, yeah, I mean, we are, 5 days shy of the next inauguration, a year from now. He had only been president for 5 days, and he gave this news conference. I'm going to link to it on YouTube. They have a copy of it. Now, the thing is, and what you have to understand here, and I remember watching these as a little kid. I was 6 years old at the time, but and his presidency was only 3 years. He gave the most entertaining press conferences. This was the very first one. There's a few chuckles in it, but it's nothing major. But my God, this guy could be funny. It's like he was. I mean, I still remember watching this just with delight. I mean, it's like he was so classy and so urbane and like so. I mean, he it was really amazing. He completely. I mean, I don't have to tell you this. He changed the game, and the modern era basically started on his inauguration day in January 1961. That's when the mark here in the United States was currently considered the modern era. And I suppose if you're going to keep track of that sort of stuff, you probably put another mark at 2000, because that's really when the internet really took off. I was working on the internet 1.0, web 1.0 in the 1990s, and it did exist, but the web really took off in 2000. That's when it really started to become really popular. And that was a game changer too. And the other thing, what I read today and I have to qualify this, it wasn't the first televised news conference. It was the first live televised news conference. Dwight Eisenhower did televised news conferences, but they filmed them. They did not run them live. And that, you may think, well, that's not really that big a deal, but it is, because the fact that they were live and couldn't be edited was a huge game changer as far as the press was concerned. And the article I read, which I'm sorry, I should quote, I can't remember who wrote it, said that, and I know this is true, and that is up till this live press conference, basically the administration controlled these press conferences. I don't have to tell you this now. Now it's much more of an even free fall because they're live. You turn on an average day. I mean, they usually do these around noon Eastern time, 3 or 5 days a week. Corinne Jean-Pierre, that incompetent biddy, as she's standing up there and she's talking to Peter Ducey, and Peter usually trying to kind of upsets her. And this is kind of the way it started back then. I mean, the press loved JFK. You have to understand that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people in government that hated his guts, but the press and the public loved him. And part of the reason is because he would get up on the podium and he was so damn entertaining. I mean, I still remember, and as a little kid, I still remember watching this, just totally fixated by it. I don't know. There's not enough class in America anymore. It's easy for me. I'm just an old curmudgeon bastard bitching. Oh, and speaking of that, yeah, let's go on to our next topic, because this is speaking of no class. All right, there's a reporter who works for the Washington Post named Taylor Lorenz. Maybe you've heard of this woman, and you might have heard her. She's just a fucking crazy idiot. This woman shouldn't have a job. I mean, she shouldn't. And Beige, or who was it? Not John Sexton, or writing for Hot Air, or Beige Wellborn, I think today. She ended her article with this about the fact that they've laid off all these people at Washington Post. How did this woman keep her job? Because the thing is, she's stupid as dirt. Absolutely. I mean, there's, she's very proud about the fact she has no journalism training. She started as a blogger, and yeah, she did, and you can tell. So I have here, she posted a video on TikTok, of all places. God damn it. I mean, have you ever been there? I won't have anything to do with that. No. First of all, I've told you this. I personally am not on social media. The show is everywhere. I don't post anywhere, nothing. Not Twitter, nothing. I don't post at all. And I'm certainly not going to get involved in TikTok. I'm not. Well, yeah. So the Chinese can own my data. That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah. Let's give up let's give the ship up to the enemies, huh? All right, so but here I'm gonna play this for you now. This is her video. It's about 3 minutes long that she posted on TikTok, lamenting the fact that the journalism profession is failing. Here you go.
Journalism industry is basically in a free fall. Today, the Los Angeles Times laid off 115 employees. They wiped out their entire DC bureau in an election year. They laid off pretty much all of their sports teams. They killed their entire tech and business section. They laid off breaking news writers, social media editors. The list goes on. But what's really dark is this is just the latest in months and months and months of layoffs in the media industry. In fact, tens of thousands of journalists have been laid off in the past year. Major media companies like BuzzFeed News have completely shuttered their news operations. Time magazine also just laid off a ton of people, and Sports Illustrated basically shut down last week. Pretty much the entire digital media ecosystem that myself and a lot of other millennial journalists came up in has been completely hollowed out. And it's not just digital media sites. Local news has been obliterated. The newspaper industry is cratering. Radio is essentially dead aside from NPR, which has been gutted. Meanwhile, hundreds of workers at Condé Nast, the parent company of pretty much every major magazine from GQ to Vogue to The New Yorker to Vanity Fair, are on strike because they're also facing impending layoffs. Even mainstream national media outlets owned by billionaires like The Washington Post, where I work, and The Atlantic, where I used to work, have done layoffs. If you're a young journalist today, there's almost no on-ramp to traditional journalism. Even if you do get a job, journalists' salaries have been stagnant and even declined. And by the way, we don't make that much to begin with. I don't think people understand how bad the world would be without journalists. And let me just preface this by saying, for people that don't know my background, I did not go to journalism school. I built my own audience on the internet. I came from outside journalism and started as a blogger, and then entered into legacy journalism, a system that I have been incredibly, incredibly critical of pretty much my entire career. So I'm definitely not some mainstream media defender. And I think the rise of citizen journalism on apps like TikTok, Instagram, and elsewhere has overwhelmingly been a positive thing. The journalism industry is overrun with elite, underqualified, rich, entitled Nepo babies, okay? And that part of it is terrible. But that's not most journalists. And the majority of journalists losing their jobs in situations like this are the working journalists that are doing these investigations of police brutality, or investigating corporations, or holding power to account, or doing really thoughtful, brilliant cultural commentary. I don't want to live in a world where all of the news is delivered through 60-second TikTok videos with retention editing. And I think there's a ton of really talented journalists that are also just not great, like, social media people. I think of some of my friends who are journalists who do really deep investigations or local reporting, or sit through hour-long city council meetings to, hold some local politician to account. That's really important work, and it's work that somebody should pay for, and it's work that's not rewarded by these social media algorithms. I would love if everyone could become independent journalists, but the economics are just not there. It's really, really hard to amass a subscriber base and then retain that subscriber base over time when you're doing investigative work. And that's if you don't get sued out of existence, by the way, after you publish the first critical story of a billionaire. And I will admit, a lot of these traditional media companies have accelerated their own demise. They ignored the internet for years. They're condescending to content creators and people outside their mainstream ecosystem. They constantly kowtow to corporate and political power. They have these false and deluded notions of objectivity, which, by the way, doesn't exist. And they push a lot of really racist, sexist, regressive crap. But that's not even why a lot of them are going out of business. A lot of them are going out of business fundamentally because the economics of the media ecosystem are broken. Most news companies used to monetize by advertising, and those ad dollars have been completely subsumed by Facebook and Google and tech giants. I don't really know where that leads us, other than a pretty dire place where there's really no check on corporate and political power in this country. I did write a lot about this in my book called Extremely Online, but I do think that journalism is something a lot of people won't realize they miss until it's gone.
Can you think of anybody who's more or less self-aware than that woman? I mean, Jesus Christ, it's freaking unbelievable. I mean, she's talking about stupid, untalented nanny babies. Honey, have you looked in the mirror? And yeah, I'm calling you honey because I'm trying to insult you. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I mean, she's the very poster child of all the things she's bitching about. I, it's mind-boggling. This woman's been floating around for years. And like I said, and like Beige or whoever it was over at Hot Air said, I do not understand why she has a job. I don't. But she does. At least until they do another round of layoffs at Washington Post. I don't know. It's just disgusting. This is what you're dealing with, these young people who have enormous egos and absolutely no knowledge whatsoever. And that's the problem. You have their egos. I mean, they think they're gods and they're idiots. So I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna Marc Myrsell is here. So I had to play that for you. I know that was 3 minutes of your life you're never gonna get back, but you watch the show, so you're you're used to that. Anyway, we're gonna run 20-second bumper. I'm gonna push one of the buttons and we're gonna talk to Marc Myrsell. Here we go. Hey, Marc, can you hear me?
Hey, Jim.
I
Yes.
can hear you.
You can
What?
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, well, great.
Isn't
Okay,
that amazing?
I
Technology is
know.
an incredible thing. This inner
I
tube thing, I
know.
don't know what they figured out.
I know. Robot overlords. That's
Yeah,
fine. That's
that's
great.
right.
Good to see you, Jim.
That's right. Nice
That's
to
good.
see you, man. Nice to see you, really. Hey,
Thank you.
you got quite an honor here. I mean, Daniel Perez named you the Bigfooter of the Year.
Well, that's what I heard. I understand for the past 12 or 13 years, the Bigfooter of the Year is announced on Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, and I was hanging out like around 12 midnight,
Uh-huh.
12:15, wrapping presents, and bling, my phone goes up. And there it is, Marc Myrsell, Bigfooter of the Year. And
I'll be damned.
I showed it to my son, Vincent, and he was like, "So, are you going to have a royal guard now, like protecting me?"
How
Or
old is he? How old is he?
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I guess I am. But thanks to Daniel, I really appreciate it. So
Hey, we have to, I got a lot of questions. I'm going to start off with this. Have you ever seen a Bigfoot?
I knew, Jim, that you were probably going to ask me that.
Oh, well, hold it just a second. I'm not a skeptic, I'm basically a believer, but the thing is that's even that is a simplistic version of what's going on. So, I mean,
Sure.
if you tell me no, I talked to Stan Gordon last week. He's been doing this
Right.
40 years. He's never seen a Bigfoot. He's never seen one.
Right. I have to give you a term that was taught to me from a really good friend of mine. He called it the confirmation experience.
All right.
Okay. So the confirmation experience from my friend is where you see something right in front of you, 100 feet away, 200 feet away. You cannot deny what you are seeing right in front of you.
Yeah.
That's the confirmation experience, right?
Right.
So to answer your question, Jim, I'm just the historical research guy.
Yeah.
I'm just like the academic.
No, I know.
And prior to what I saw, I did have these weird experiences up on Mount St. Helens where I heard some stuff. I don't know what I heard. It sounded like folks up there on the ridgetop talking back and forth to each other. And there were 5 individuals I heard up on the ridgetop talking back and forth to each other. But was that my confirmational experience? No.
Well, hold on just a second. When you say talking, you're not talking about like English words, right?
Oh, certainly not.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
We're going to get into this story. We're kind of jumping ahead of each other, Jim,
I know.
on this story.
Okay.
But this is in 2013, where there were individuals up on the ridgetop talking back and forth to each other. Who those individuals were, I don't know.
Yeah.
but it was nothing like I had ever heard before. About a year or two later, we found a distinctive print about 2 miles from the research site. And it was just this large 14, 15-inch print. And so, yeah, that wasn't anything that I could say, yes, I've had experiences with Bigfoot. But on another research project down in Southwest Oregon, in Curry County, about 20 miles from the coastline from Pacific Ocean, yeah, I have to tell you, I can't say that I saw Sasquatch, but I saw two individuals cross the road right in front of me. It was the weirdest 5 to 6 seconds of my life.
And I'm assuming you say you can't say they're Sasquatch, but they weren't human, right?
No, absolutely not.
Right.
I was coming out of a Forest Service road, and I was driving along about 25 miles an hour on the Forest Service road, coming out of a research site. And my first impression here, who in front of me, 200 feet in front of my car, is playing in the middle of the road in the dark, wearing a flagger's get up or a firefighter's get up.
Uh-huh.
What I saw was a large individual, very burly, that looked like it was wearing a firefighter's uniform. It was blonde, dark brown, and he was facing me, and he was stopped like this about 200 feet in front of me. I kept on going. I took my foot off the gas, going about 20 miles an hour, and bam, he took off, he or she. And then I saw another one come up from a crouching position, standing up, and bam, going up the hill. So to answer your question, my good friends in the Bigfoot research community have said, yes, you saw two individual Sasquatch.
Well, hold it. Were they actually wearing vest type? Or did you just missee that? Or
that's what I saw. What I saw from 200 feet away was blonde. That's what I saw. Beige, blonde, yellow.
because here's I have a lot of people on the show, Mark. I mean, my thought here there is that maybe that's not Bigfoot. Maybe you saw extraterrestrials. I'm not kidding. Wearing silver outfits. I don't know.
That's another subject that we can get into this interview. I mean, Jim, we just started, dude.
Oh, I know, dear. I know.
we just started. I do want to interject in this research area around the South Fork of the Sixes River down in Curry County, Oregon.
Uh-huh.
Beginning around 1875, these individual creatures were reported to be 6.5, 7 feet tall, and they were reported to be entirely covered with blonde or yellow hair.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Bipedal creatures. And I gotta say, that's what I saw. It was blonde, yellow-haired creatures shooting off like in an insect-like movement. They were running very fast across the road, and they just bolted across the road, went up the hill.
I don't pretend to be an expert, Mark. I don't pretend to be an expert at this, but are there many reports of blonde Bigfoots?
Yes, there are.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Particularly down in Southwest Oregon and Northwest California. Yeah, there are.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it keeps repeating through the history, which is what I'm good at. But the Bigfoot research guy.
Yeah, well,
Um,
hold up. I'm going to change the subject then, because the thing is, I'm
yeah.
really curious about this, the Ape Canyon incident of 1924. Now, I've heard a little bit about this, but the thing is, you basically have kind of nailed this down, and I have to tell you, I admire your tenacity, because this was 100 years ago, and this has basically only been confirmed by you and a couple other people in the last 3 or 4 years or so, right? Do I get that
Yeah,
right? And that's the
I mean,
reason you're the Bigfoot of the year, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. The Ape Canyon incident was on July the 10th of 1924.
Right. And
And
so can you tell our audience, basically, can you explain the initial incident?
sure. So, Jim, we have like 4 hours for this show, right? No, okay. No, I'll try.
Well, no,
I'll try to give you an elevator ride here in the next
look,
5 minutes.
I promise you we'll have you back.
Okay,
I'm
thanks,
already in love with you. So
Thanks, man. Okay, so what had happened is that in 1918, a group of miners out of Kelso, Washington, went to go up looking for gold up on Mount St. Helens, and they did that eventually. They were looking for placer mines eventually, where placer mines are just like where you're like gold panning, sort of, with sluice boxes.
are
Right?
they're surface mines? Is that the idea?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, you bet. And so in 1922, they eventually laid claim to a gold mine, and it was a lode claim burrowing into the side of a butte called Pumice Butte, right? So they started to do that. Well, when they were working this mine, you got to realize that this is about 3,500, 4,000 feet elevation on Mount St. Helens. And so they were dealing with snows every winter. So they couldn't stay up there all the dang time working the mine.
Question, Mark. Question.
Yes.
When it's not winter, is there snow in those areas at that elevation? I don't actually know.
I'm sorry. Ask the question again.
When it's not winter, is there snow at that elevation?
Yeah. Good question. No.
No. Okay.
In the 20s, as it is today, no. The basic beginning working time is mid to late May, and then you got to get out of there in November.
Okay. All right.
And
Very good.
the rest of the year is snow, and you can't.
Right.
You could stay up there. But all you would be doing, Jim, is just surviving.
Right.
Just
right.
maybe bagging a deer or something
Yeah.
to survive. You can't work up there. So anyway, so they were working this mine, and they would start to see these large prints sort of near their work area. They would also start hearing stuff from the ridge tops. There's one thing, Jim, that you need to understand is that 2 or 3 of the miners involved were not young chickens. These guys were experienced loggers who were logging this area in the 1880s, 1890s, and 1900s. And these guys were badass guys.
Yeah.
Because they had seen everything that there was to see up on the mountains. They had shot everything. They had fished everything. They had seen everything up in these mountains.
And shall I assume at this point they're in their 50s too?
Well, actually, during the 1924 attack, Marion Smith, the patriarch of the whole mining expedition, was 64.
Oh, yeah. So they're not young at all.
And one of the miners, his cousin, was actually 68. So no, they were not young, and they had seen everything up on the mountain that there was to see. But the point is that they were hearing stuff from the ridge tops that they had never heard before. There was this high pitched whistling sound coming from one ridge top at night in the dark, and then, wait a minute, shh. And then there was a response call from another ridgetop, back and forth for all night long. And they couldn't really explain what was going on. It wasn't elk, it wasn't the wind. They couldn't explain what was going on. When they eventually got down to where they were working the mine, at the end of 1923, they decided that the gold assays from the Vanderwhite mine were good enough. They decided when they returned in the spring of 1924, they were going to build a cabin right next to the mine, because before that, they were just tent camping about 900 feet away. But this 800 or 900 feet away was like way up the butte and way down the butte. They were going to build a cabin right next to the mine, and it was going to be a formidable enough cabin where they could keep their tools, maybe have a few beans and rice and cans or whatever, just leave their stuff there so that when they intended to return, they could have their stuff right there. So when they returned in the spring of 1924, I'm estimating mid-May or so, that's what they did. They built a cabin. And this is a 10 by 20 foot cabin. And they took down the trees, built a cabin, and kept on working the mine. Jim, I got to tell you, it's only been about 2 months ago where I received the most excellent photos out of a private photo album, a family photo album of the cabin. And I've been always looking for photos of the cabin, photos of the site. These photos are amazing because the cabin, I always knew it was quite formidable, but dear God, I had no idea how big this cabin was. I mean, these logs, they were taking down 16-inch trees to build their cabin. These guys were badass, man. And so they built this cabin and they were working the mine. Fred Beck and Marion Smith went to go to the spring site to get some water about 75 feet, 100 feet away. And there was this creature that they saw when they were getting water from the spring. And this creature was peeking out from behind a tree. Fred Beck took 3 shots at it, started running down. And Marion Smith, his father-in-law, said, "No, don't run. We got it." They go down to the tree, and there's no animal. There's no fur. There's no blood. Fred said later that you could see the bark from the tree skinning off as he shot this creature 3 times, peeking out from behind the tree. They went down there, and there's nothing. They see this creature, bipedal hair-covered creature, going up on the other slope beyond, just looking behind, looking at Marion and Fred. This is just before the 4th of July in 1924.
And Fred was certain he hit it, huh?
Oh, absolutely. 3 times, right?
Yeah.
So they go down, all the miners go down back into Kelso, Washington to celebrate 4th of July with their family. The thing that you got to realize is that Fred Beck and the Smith family had a sterling reputation in Kelso, Longview, Washington, as just being very, very straightforward, square guys.
Right.
Whatever they said was true. You could count on it. So when they're coming back into town on 4th of July, saying that they shot this mountain devil, this 7-foot tall creature, their family and their friends really couldn't put it together. The Beck Smith family are really good guys, but they're saying that they shot this 8-man monster up on Mount St. Helens. So
Mark, I gotta ask you, was the term, were these mountain devils, were they common, or did people know about them at that time? Or, I mean, Did they pull this term out of the middle of nowhere, or were that?
Mountain devil. I think the term mountain devil was actually coined during the Ape Canyon incident
Okay. All right.
by Marion Smith.
Right. Okay. All right.
Before that, one thing you have to realize: the term Sasquatch wasn't coined until a little bit later by J.W. Burns up in British Columbia. Before that, it had a variety of names.
Yeah.
But as far as the term Sasquatch, the term Bigfoot, it kind of really didn't exist.
Well, Bigfoot's from the 1950s, right?
Well, I have a differing opinion on that.
Okay, all right.
But we can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, we can. That's right.
Okay,
Show number 6.
Yeah. So, but as far as human interaction with this large bipedal creature that we're calling Sasquatch or Bigfoot, yes, there was a lot of interaction with that dating back hundreds of years. There is a lot of history with that, mainly oral history with native nations, right? You have to understand. This was the Ape Canyon incident of 1924 was one of the very first incidences where Euro-Americans in the newspapers had an understanding of these bipedal creatures up there.
Well, Mark, I don't know if you caught the top of the show, but I described it basically as the Roswell version, the Bigfoot version of Roswell is what I described it. This whole
thing. I did, Jim. I did catch that, and yes, if anybody is involved at all in the Bigfoot research community or is a Bigfoot enthusiast, everyone knows the Ape Canyon 1924 Ape Canyon incident as being one of the Bigfoot classics that everyone knows about. Right. Roswell incident, yeah, you bet, absolutely. So anyway,
hold it just a second. I want to ask you one more question. So you're saying though that in that time in 1923-24, there was no common name among the locals there for what this creature was. Is that correct? So
that is correct. In the common nomenclature, locally amongst the native nations, the creature was known as Siatic or Siatic.
A what?
Siatic.
Oh, okay.
Siatic.
Right.
I have no native nation heritage or linguistic capabilities, so I'm probably mispronouncing it. But there's a lot. There are multiple names for this kind of creature amongst many of the native nations around here.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into Siatic or Siatic here in a second.
Okay.
If I can. But anyway, so when the guys returned after the 4th of July, things started going downhill very, very quickly. Not to make a pun, but you have to realize that Pumice Butte goes up and it goes down very steeply to the tune of like 900 or 1,000 feet from the top. And that's where the mine and the cabin were. And so it all started when they came back from the 4th of July. Leroy Perry Smith, the youngest of the miners' crew, was coming back from the spring site to gather water for the cabin. The rest of the guys were working the mine, and this big bruiser comes out from the brush, and what's Leroy gonna do? He takes shots at it. He shoots into the creature. This is a very limited distance, maybe 50 to 75 feet.
And it's daytime, right?
Absolutely daytime in the afternoon. The creature turns, seemingly not affected by the bullets, and goes back into the brush, right? So July the 10th, on Thursday of 24, The guys who are working the mine, the rest of the miners are back in the cabin. Leroy is coming back from the spring again, and he's outside. The rest of the guys are in the cabin. The creature comes out, and Leroy takes a shot at it because his dad, Marion Smith, the elder, told everyone no one leaves camp. No one leaves the cabin unarmed, meaning that his dad was kind of getting freaked out about what was going on up there.
Oh, so this is above and beyond just regular vermin or bears or something like that. He's starting to really, yeah, okay.
He was getting concerned. Nobody leaves camp unarmed.
Right.
And so the rest of the guys are in the cabin. Leroy is coming back from the spring, and this creature comes out. Leroy takes a shot at it. The guys in the cabin hear the shot, and they come boiling out. And they come boiling out of the cabin. Everyone, the rest of the 4 guys in the cabin, is taking shots into this creature. In the newspapers, Marion estimated about 16 rounds.
Oh my God!
Went into this creature. Mind you, these are, at best 30-30s.
Yeah.
32-30s. It's basically a deer rifle. You couldn't take down a polar bear with this thing.
Right.
But Marion estimated there were about 16 shots that went into this creature. Fred Beck, who was about 32, 34 at the time, took the last shot. The creature was at the top of the canyon, and the creature either fell and tumbled into the canyon or crouched down and scrambled down 200 or 300 feet into the bottom of the canyon. So that was that afternoon of Thursday, July the 10th. They're all bedded up, and they're like, you know what? We need to get the hell out of here. This is crazy. Something weird is going on, obviously.
Yeah.
And so they plan to get out there the next morning. Well, something came down that hill very, very sharply and knocked out this big log chinking between the logs.
Uh-huh.
And all the miners look out. This is dark. July the 10th. It's dark, about 8 or 9 at night. They look out. There's enough moonlight. They can see 6 or 7 of these creatures dancing around 6, 7 feet tall. Next thing you know, these things are up on top of the roof. They're trying to beat their way in. They're trying to beat their way through the door. And it's like, holy crap. And these guys are well-armed miners, and they're shooting through the roof. They're shooting through the door, and they're taking apart their bunk beds and bolstering up the door to try to keep this, onslaught onto their cabin away. They're building up their fire. The ventilator cap off the top of the cabin for their fire was knocked off. Please go away. Please go away, they're shouting. You go away, we'll go away, and we'll be all fine in the morning. This attack on the cabin happens all night long. Later on, they find out that one of the creatures was digging under the foundation of their log cabin to try to get inside. In the morning, everything's quiet. They unbolster the door, open the door. They look outside. There had been rocks and big rocks peltering the cabin all night long. Rocks all over the outside of the cabin. Huge footprints. What I've always said, they said, grab your smokes, grab your guns, and let's get the hell out of here. And they hiked 6 miles back to their truck, back up to Spirit Lake that morning on July the 11th of Friday. Must have been the longest hike of their lives.
Yeah, and also, I mean,
That's what happened up at Ape Canyon in July 1924.
it bears pointing out here, first of all, that they've got an active gold mine. So they've actually got an incentive to stay. You know, it's like these guys bolted out of there even though they got gold down the hill. It's like, gee, did they ever come back?
No, they didn't. That's one of the interesting punchlines of this whole story. I've worked with a very, very good compadre, a fellow named Gene Westerberg, who has found a lot of really cool gold mines and really cool research here in the West. And I've consulted with him, and he and I talked. And the interesting thing is that this is July the 10th, right?
Yeah.
And so we have apparently really good gold assays out of this mine called the Vanderwhite mine, reportedly. We have about 3 or 4 months worth of good weather until November to still work the mine, right? But there are 2 documents about the Vanderwhite mine. Number one is the location claim in 1922, where they laid claim to the mine. The other document, which is sort of the punchline, is that when you had a mine in the 1920s, in order to prove that claim, you had to file in the county offices your proof of labor. That's an actual term, proof of labor, where you had to prove the work that you had done on this mine in order to prove the claim for the mineral rights to come to you.
And how do you do that?
There was only one proof of labor filed on the Vanderwhite mine, the Ape Canyon mine. And they said in 1924, on this proof of labor, we worked these many days, we moved this much dirt, and all work was completed on July the 10th of 1924.
They never went back.
That was the night of the attack.
Right.
All work was done on July the 10th of 1924, and then they just bailed.
Yeah.
They never went back. It was only Fred Beck and Leroy Smith who went up with reporters the week later and got great photos of the site. But they never went back to the gold claim. The whole thing was abandoned. It was gone.
Well, so okay, you're talking about reporters. So they went into town after this, and they told people about it. And what was your reaction?
Jim, I say this a lot. If you and I, before this interview, you or I were like T-boned in an intersection to get back to our computer, we were T-boned by a car, you know, you and I would meet today and be like, hey, Jim, you wouldn't believe what happened. I just got T-boned by a car. You know, I'm going to come see you. You wouldn't believe what happened. That's what happened with the miners. When they were hiking out that morning on July the 11th, they said, don't say anything to anybody. They're going to think we're crazy. But they got back into town and they did what I would do. They went and had a drink at the Blue Ox Tavern.
Yeah. I think you'd want that really bad, actually.
Right, exactly. Yeah, cheers, exactly. So when they got to the Blue Ox Tavern in Kelso Longview, what did they say?
You'll never guess what fucking happened to us.
Yeah, right, exactly. No, exactly, dude. No, that's exactly right. I got T-boned in an intersection. Point. You wouldn't believe what happened to me. Even though they swore to each other, they would never say anything. How can you not?
Right.
Not say anything? And so they talked to the bartend. My very good friend John Pickering, who's a Bigfoot researcher, he is good friends with the family who ran the Blue Ox Tavern, and still in family stories for the family who ran the Blue Ox, they still talk about when the miners came in on July the 11th, right? And so they talked to the bartend in Kelso at the Blue Ox, and then the next day, Longview Daily News, which was a evening paper, next day, July the 12th, around 6 o'clock, it hit the news. Up less than 48 hours after the attack on their cabin, Kelso miners come back with tales of mountain devils. And so from there, it spread like wildfire, man. Because at the time, there was a new invention called the AP wire, Associated Press wire.
Right.
And it just, bam,
yeah,
spread like wildfire all up and down the West Coast. I have found it as far east as Missouri.
Mark,
So,
I tell my viewers here regularly. Years ago, it's people don't understand that the local newspapers and local radio had a huge influence on the populace because they were the media. You know, so if you're in 1924 and you had a newspaper in your town, oh God, that's incredible. I mean, you know, so people believe what they print. You know.
No, absolutely, especially with the invention of the AP wire. I mean, man, it's like it's the same, Jim, as you and I talking this evening right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Live.
You're right.
Right.
It's pretty much the same thing. I agree.
It is. Yeah, it is pretty much the same thing. And then bleeding on into the 20s and 30s and 40s with the invention of the teletype. Right. Yeah. It's nearly instantaneous information.
Right.
And so, my God, there's eight man on Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
My God. And so that was spread nearly all over the country. And after the attack, that's what instigated what they call the Great Ape Hunt of 1924. Because this is still, in the young men's late night reading material of Tarzan.
Oh yeah, I never thought of that. Yeah,
where there's William Burroughs talking about Tarzan. There are 8 men on Mount St. Helens, and so it got so bad where one of the rangers, one of the National Forest Rangers said, "No more ape man hunting."
Right.
On St. Helens, where the ranger said, "You have to check your rifle at the ranger station. We're not going to allow any more shooting up there because people are going to get killed because every little shaking bush or everything, people are taking shots at it, trying to kill the ape men up there."
I'm going to ask you an obvious question, but the thing is, I think it needs to be asked. So that morning when those guys got up at the cabin, I assume they found no dead Bigfoot, right?
No, they did not.
Yeah. All right. Now the other thing is, and now I'm talking about your speculation here, but you're an expert, so I want to know what you think.
I'm not an expert.
Jim,
stop. I'm not an expert.
No, you are.
No, I'm not.
You are being too modest. Okay, you got a bunch of guys shooting 16 rounds at a creature. How the hell? Well, first of all, these are their experienced hunters. No, it's not that they missed 16 times. They didn't. So how does anybody explain, you or anyone else, I mean, this has been well known in the Bigfoot community that people said they shot at Bigfoot, nothing seems to happen. How does these creatures, how are they avoiding harm from our gunfire? Do you have any idea?
No.
Okay.
I don't have any idea, Jim. But I got to tell you, well, let me backtrack.
I want to ask, just you agree with my generalization though that people?
Yeah, no, absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
No,
okay, go ahead.
I know, I absolutely agree with it in as much in as much that it's worthy of investigation, which I am pursuing
Yeah, interesting.
on this project as well as another project. But the thing is, Jim, I'm one of those weird Anglo-American white guys who has never shot a weapon. I've never shot a weapon. I'm not a gun guy. I don't know anything about guns.
Mark, I got to tell you about this. I get together with 5 friends about once a quarter to have dinner, and I'm the only conservative guy. And the last time we got together for dinner, me, 4 liberals, and a conservative, I'm the only one that doesn't have a gun.
Oh, dude! Oh, Jim! Oh my God!
I know the girl, the woman, she even belongs to like a liberal gun club. It's like, what the hell? It's like, you're all out shooting people. It's like, anyway.
Okay, okay, but since I'm on the Jim Peters show, I'm gonna digress for a moment.
Yes, please do.
As you can tell, yeah, okay. As you can tell,
Well, you look
I'm quite politically progressive.
Uh-huh.
But I got to tell you, since I've gotten involved in the Bigfoot research community, I've met people who are maybe a little bit more politically aligned with you, Jim. And I think that my friends in the Bigfoot research community kind of consider me as like their token, like long hair, hippie Arlo Guthrie.
You're the token hippie, right?
Yeah. Right? And all of my friends in the Bigfoot research community who are maybe more like you, I consider them my token, gun-toting red, white, and blue friends.
Yeah.
But the point is in the Bigfoot research community is that I think we've shocked the shit out of each other, where they can look at me and it's like, I would never, ever, ever have Mark as a friend. But it's like, hey, he's pretty cool. And I see those other guys, and I'm like, I would never have them as a friend. Yeah. But no, they're my brothers. They're my
brothers. It's funny how this shit works, isn't it? It's
amazing. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm a former liberal myself, so I've seen both sides. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, and it's terrible. It's awful.
No, jeez. Yeah. Did you have to go through some sort of like decommissioning ceremony?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I'm a great disappointment to my family and friends, so I'll tell you.
But the thing is that I'm trying to point out, Jim, is that more often than not, despite what Jim, I'm looking at you, Jim.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, Jim Peters, that guy. And you're looking at me as like, oh my God, that guy. You and I have more in common than we think that we do.
Oh, I know that. I know that's true. You don't have to sell me on that. I'm totally aware of that. I know that. Yeah. Right. But the thing is, so I had Stan Gordon on the show. I'm jumping ahead. I'm jumping ahead here too, and I tried to get him to speculate. He's like you. He's a good researcher. He just like goes off the facts and what people tell him and what he sees. And he won't. It's like, and I didn't ask him per se about the shooting stuff, but he said people have seen I was talking about this at the top of the show. I want to run this by you. I talked to a lot of Bigfoot people. There's 2 distinct camps. One camp is that Bigfoot is an undiscovered primate. Okay, fine. And that's like people can buy that. And I don't know if that's, but the other camp is there's something really, really weird going on here. And it's like, there's a lot of people who don't want to go there. And I think part of the reason is because I don't think they think the public won't accept it. And that's probably true. The public probably wouldn't. But oh my God, you lost your light. Oh, there you
go. No, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
You want to punt?
No, I'm not. I'm gonna go through. I'm gonna go for the long shot on this one, Jim. I live in a rural community, out here on the Washington coast.
Yeah.
And there are advantages to that
Hmm.
because in this rural community, I'm kind of known as the Bigfoot guy.
Yeah. Right.
And there are great advantages to that because it's like, oh God, Mark's this long haired weirdo who runs in a public aquarium. And but oh my God, he believes in Bigfoot. And so it's not that I believe in Bigfoot, but that's the advantage. People bring me their Bigfoot stories. Bring people come into the aquarium and
Yeah.
talk to me, come to me, tell me their Bigfoot stories, right? So I got to tell you that in and I document everything and I write everything down and I appreciate what people bring to me. But as far as what is the Sasquatch, what is the Bigfoot phenomenon, I don't know. I don't know what the Bigfoot phenomenon is.
Hmm.
But I got to tell you, I do believe that the Bigfoot phenomenon, the Sasquatch phenomenon, is real. Inasmuch is that when people come to me and bring me their stories, I think that 99% of the time when people say that they saw something in the woods, I believe that they saw something in the woods. What that is, I don't know. I don't know. To quote Michael Freeman, son of Paul Freeman, um, we're in the business of evidence.
Hmm.
We're in the business of evidence. So, to get to what you were saying, there is a slight division in the research community where there is one side that is flesh and blood North American wood ape.
Right.
On the other side, whatever. I don't know enough about that, but interdimensional portals, yeah,
The problem
demons.
with the word interdimensional is hardly anyone even knows what it means. There's really even no
Exactly.
right, no real
Exactly.
definition for it. Right. You know.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Um, but my problem about getting involved with the Bigfoot research community, um, and which I was kind of sort of willingly drug into the Bigfoot research community, is that I've met everybody from all sides of the spectrum. Interdimensional, portals coming out of caves, North American wood ape, whatever. The thing is that there is a term that's been bantered about in the Bigfoot research community, and it's called woo. Woo.
Yeah.
Like woo, 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 woo. And
Uh-huh.
it has to, and I think it's a diminutive term to cast aside those that don't believe in the flesh and blood kind of North American wood ape.
Right.
It could be interdimensional. There's UFO phenomenon
Yeah.
involved. Maybe not. Maybe so. But these guys are cast aside as woo. If you don't believe in the North American wood ape, then you are woo.
Hmm.
I have problems with that because here's the reason why. Because if you were bringing me stories or other people's stories where a Bigfoot showed up and it was, taken up by UFOs, or it came out of a portal, it was cloaked, whatever, that's your story. But I'm not going to cast it aside because you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Right.
When these people bring these stories to me, there could be, even if I don't believe in interdimensional, if I don't believe in UFOs or whatever, I am casting the baby out with the bathwater. And I think that we're going to be losing a lot of their evidence, which I think is important, that needs to be preserved for the future of this research.
I totally agree with you, Mark. My thing is, I've been doing the UFO research for 30 years. Like you said, most people don't lie. Yeah, there's some hoaxers. There's some, that shit goes around. But most people, when they tell you they've seen something, at least they think they've really seen it. Now, whether it's what they think they saw is a completely different deal. But they
Word
think
on that.
they think,
Yeah.
and so there's too many people. You end up with a preponderance of circumstantial evidence. If too many people come forward and say, "Oh, I saw Bigfoot disappear right before my eyes," at what point, if you get 50, 100, or 200 people that say that and they don't know each other, at what point do you can't just completely discount it? I just don't think you can.
I
Even
get
though
it.
it's completely weird, you can't can't explain it.
Jim, I gotta give you something else about um, rules of evidence. As far it, did I tell you I'm a land surveyor? I think I did.
No, actually, I knew that, but you didn't mention it. No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm a land surveyor.
Yeah.
For whatever that's worth. We deal with land surveyors deal with rules of evidence as accepted by federal case and state rules of evidence as well. Nearly sort of across federal and state case law, rules of evidence, one of the hierarchies of rules of evidence is parole evidence, where Jim, you and I are walking down the street and we see this guy shoot someone, and we walk on by, and then the DAs get a hold of us and say, "Mark and Jim, what did you see?" "Oh, well, we saw this." Parole evidence is verbal evidence. This is what we saw, where Jim and I are just walking down the street from market, and this is what we saw. And we give that to the DA. We have no involvement with the case. We have no idea what was going on with the case. Parole evidence holds number one in the rules of evidence in federal and state case law.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have no involvement, and we were just like hanging out, seeing something, and we saw what we saw. Parole evidence holds number one. That is a big damn deal.
Yeah, it is. And I've said on the show, and it's mostly as a joke, but I know it's not hard and fast, but I've always said that basically people who go looking for Bigfoot never find Bigfoot. It's always the guy who takes his family out into the forest for a picnic. They're the people that see Bigfoot. You go looking for Bigfoot, you'll never find Bigfoot. Now, I know that's not really true. I know there are people who have gone out looking for Bigfoot and found Bigfoot, but as a general rule, the people who see Bigfoot, they don't have anything going on with anything. All they know is they saw a big freaking ape man who was 8 feet tall. That's all they know.
No, absolutely. The Beck and Smith family were looking for gold. They didn't give a shit about looking for
right. That's right.
mountain devils. They were looking for gold, but they ran into Bigfoot. So
let's fast forward here to your okay. So this cabin these guys bought basically disintegrated, correct? Over time, right?
Can you talk for a moment? Yeah, I have to plug in my laptop to keep this conversation going.
Okay, all right. I'm going to talk for just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I have a commercial I have to do. I'm going to do it.
Cool. Yeah.
Here we go. This is Conch News right here, and this is the front page of Conch News, and you can see this. I grabbed this about an hour and a half ago. So, but the really interesting thing here about the fact that Hawaii legislature is in talks to block President Trump from the ballot. I did not know that. That's brand new. this little logo down at the you can't see my cursor. I keep forgetting that. That's from 100% Fred Up. That article right there. Conch News gets articles from 75 news sources and puts them all on the front page every 3 hours. So you gotta check that out. If you're a news junkie, you can't find anything better on the internet. Period. It's at conk.com, CONK.com. So there, I did it. How about that? Look at that. We got it going on. My God.
Okay, man.
Yeah,
Good.
look at that. Yeah, I did a commercial. Holy shit. So okay, so we were talking. So are you good now? Right now?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
So this cabin basically disintegrated over time, right?
Yes, it did. There were reports. If you read Fred Beck's book, I Fought the Ape Man of Mount St. Helens, that was published in 1967, Fred said that he had understood that the cabin burnt down. And I don't think it did, because Fred had not been up there when the book was published in 67. He had not been up there for 40 years or so.
Uh-huh.
And
Well, did he hear that? Was that like a third party?
you know what? Yeah, I never tracked that down about where he got that information, but I can tell you, no, the cabin did not burn down.
Yeah, well, you found it, right?
Yes, yeah, I did.
What is it, 2017? Do I have that right?
No, 2013.
In 2013, you found it. And how did you locate it?
Do we have another 4 hours, Jim?
That'll be show 8. You come back for show 8.
Yeah, sure. Like, I can come back on, Jim. Anyway, no.
Oh, you will.
I know how I got on to this story, but I don't know how I got onto this story. But I started researching the Ape Canyon incident, the 1924 Ape Canyon incident. My friend Brad Angus said that I started researching it in 27. I think it was 2009. But I started researching this as sort of kind of a midlife crisis project, I guess.
It is one of those interesting things, is that the story's been floating around for forever. But I can't remember if you or Daniel Perez said that in the interview they did with you. It's one of those things where people have just come to accept it and nobody really looks at it.
Jim, since you've been using expletives and swearing, I'm going to do the same thing. Daniel Perez told me, and maybe he inspired me a little bit, years ago. He said that before I got on the scene, the Ape Canyon story was ready to be shit canned into the circular file of Tall Tale and Legend, where people were even questioning if this had even happened,
right,
or if these guys were even real.
Yeah,
right. But they were real, and they really did build a cabin, and they really did work a mine, and they really split off of Mount St. Helens on July the 11th after being attacked by mountain devils. So
when you started looking into this in 2013, were any of these guys still alive?
Let me backtrack.
Okay.
I first started looking into this in
I interrupt too much.
I think 2009, when I first started looking into this. No, none of them were alive.
Yeah.
Okay. The youngest of the miners, Leroy Perry Smith, died in 1975. I believe.
Okay.
But
long dead.
Kind of, not really, because when we look into field evidence, when we look into document evidence, that's important. But again, getting back to parole evidence, what's parole evidence? Verbal evidence. Who did I talk to? What did I see? That's why I think family stories are extremely important. And I've had the privilege to get to know the youngest of the miners, Leroy Perry Smith, I've gotten to know his daughter.
All right.
And I invited her up on stage at a Sasquatch conference. She's a fucking badass, man. It was good. It was great. Oh my god, it was so great, Jim. I'm gonna tell you, this was
So she takes after her grandfather, huh? Or her father, I mean.
Well, the great thing is that, yeah, it was a great presentation. This was last year, the Kelso Longview Squatch Fest, Sasquatch Summit, and I told the audience about parole evidence and family stories and everything. And ladies and gentlemen, won't you please welcome Leroy Perry Smith's daughter? And this 75-year-old woman comes up on the stage, and there was this hush over the crowd, and it was like, holy shit. Oh my God. All these Bigfoot nerds started nerding out. And so, and so after the interview on stage, Betty, that Leroy Perry Smith's daughter, was going around, and everyone was asking for her autograph and taking pictures with her and everything. It was great. Anyway, my point being is that the stories that the family can provide for you is parole evidence. That
you're only getting them, they're only one generation removed, so they're pretty much
that's true. Exactly. Rod Beck is Fred Beck's grandson. So Rod Beck is a grandson, right? The issue is that Rod Beck lived with his grandfather, Fred Beck, for about 7 or 8 years as a grandfather-grandson relationship.
right.
Rod Beck got to know Fred Beck very, very well and knew the Ape Canyon story very, very well. So what my point being is that these are family stories that land into more of the evidence of the Ape Canyon story. And that's what I'm going for.
Mark, do you think that the reason you got to know all these people might be one reason why you found this cabin and this mine and nobody else ever did?
Well, the cabin, two parts to that, Jim. The cabin, well, being a jerk, the cabin was me.
Yeah, and you're right. I understand this. You didn't actually find the mine. You came very,
No,
very
I did
close,
not.
but you didn't. Right? Okay, but
No,
still,
no,
you
no,
brought
no.
you brought those guys there, didn't you?
Well, no, okay. Here's the story, Jim.
All right.
The cabin, the initial finding of the cabin, and you find the cabin foundation. This is it. That was 2013.
Yeah.
Where we found, me and another guy who was hiking with me, risking his life. We found the cabin foundation. We found one of the miners' spoons. We found baling wire. We found the nails driven into the cabin foundation. It was all the evidence. Yes.
Yeah.
We have found the cabin. That was in 2013.
Right.
So this last year, we went up for the 99th anniversary. And when I say me, it was my longtime friend who's been with me every single trip, Brian Angus, Cliff Barrickman of the North American Bigfoot Center, runs a museum, and his friend Keith. We went up there, and the great grandsons of Leroy Perry Smith, the youngest of the miners, who were supposed to join us, but they couldn't. So I'm gonna lead you through this story. They couldn't. The Mitchell guys, the great grandsons of Leroy Perry Smith, couldn't join us. And so, okay, we're gonna go next week, maybe 2 weeks. And so they asked me for detailed directions about how to get to the cabin site. right?
And so, hold it. I have to ask you. So, all you know is that the mine is supposed to be very close to the cabin, right? That's what you know.
So, yeah, the document record said 80 feet below the cabin site where the mining location notice was nailed to the tree.
Uh huh.
There's this big ass tree down there, about 7 feet in diameter, much older than the 1970s and 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. It's a big ass tree. And so I ran my metal detector up and down this tree right by the cabin site. And sure enough, there's metal in this tree. I know where that notice was laid in that tree. The mine entrance was 80 feet below that tree, below the cabin site. So that's what I know. I know where the cabin site is. I know where the tree is. The mine is supposed to be 80 feet below that. I had gone down below the cabin, and me and Shane Corson had gone down there, and I know we were like within 50 feet of the mine. I know that we were so close, but fast track to this August, I had gotten directions to the Mitchell brothers, Leroy Perry Smith's great grandsons, and I gave them very detailed directions about how to get to the cabin site. It's their family, it's their story.
Yeah.
This is their family. The Ape Canyon story is their story, right? It's their family story. So I gave them very detailed directions, diagrams and everything. But mind you, this is very precipitous, life endangering travel down this slope.
Right.
So they did about 3 tries. On the 3rd try, they found the cabin site that I had described. They found it, but they went a little bit further. And I don't know how they got reception. Braden Mitchell, Leroy Perry Smith's great grandson, he sent me a photo, and he was like, "I found it," and he sent me this picture on Facebook. I was like, "How the hell do you have reception up there?" But he sent me this little picture of a definite mine entrance into a mountain. And I was like, "Is this 5 miles away? Where the hell is this?" And I don't hear from him for like 2 hours. And then he's like, "Yeah, this is right below the cabin site." And they had found the Vendor White mine entrance.
Yeah.
They had found the Ape Canyon entrance. Jim, I sent you a photo of that. Do you have it?
Yes, I do. I'm going to post it, as a matter of fact. I'm going to put it on our blog.
Put it on.
Thank you. I will. So, have you entered the mine?
No.
I
Snow's
assume they have, right?
What?
I assume they have entered the mine, right?
No.
They didn't go in.
I how can I say this? It's silted in.
Yeah.
It's on a very, very precipitous
I understand,
slope.
right?
And Braden explained that you can only look in there about 5 feet
Yeah.
or so.
Right.
But right now we're working with Gifford Pinchot, National Forest Service archaeologist, in order to get permission to excavate it. Because Rod Beck, getting back to Rod Beck, Fred Beck's grandson, he went there in the early 1970s. And Rod told me over the phone interview that he had gotten down to the mine entrance, and he said it went in there about 75 feet. And he said he found tools and stuff left over from his grandfather and other family members.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, tell me if I'm wrong. These relatives probably actually own that mine, don't they?
No, they do not.
Oh, okay.
No, they do not. 2 reasons. Is because the mine was not proofed. You needed to have worked the mineral claim for 7 years under federal statutes of the time in 1920s, and they didn't do that.
Uh-huh.
So when they left and didn't work the mine, they only worked the mine for 2 years. So no, there's no gold mining up there anymore.
So, Mark, did I get this right from the interview that Daniel did, that when you guys actually stayed up there by the cabin site, you heard weird shit too? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you want to elaborate? What was it?
Yeah, you bet. One of the greatest people who in the research community who knows most about suspicious sounds
Yeah.
is a fellow named David Ellis,
Uh-huh.
who Jim, I got to recommend for you getting in contact with David
Thank
Ellis.
you. I will. Matter of fact, I might bug you for his contact info. Appreciate that.
Absolutely, because
Yeah.
David Ellis has a great library of not Bigfoot sounds, but he taught me that term, suspicious sounds,
Uh-huh.
because David Ellis uses spectrograph to analyze. Okay, Jim, you give me your Sasquatch call. Woo, like that.
Uh-huh.
And he puts it on a graph along with Chris Spencer of the Skookum Valley Research Project, and they will tell you immediately, well, that's Jim making a Bigfoot call.
Right.
But there's another sound. Oh, you look at that on the spectrograph, that's a coyote, that's a raccoon, that is a barred owl, right?
Yeah.
But they can say they can tell there are other things on this spectrogram
Uh-huh.
that can't be identified,
Yeah.
right? So that's what happened to me
That's fantastic.
in 2013.
Yeah.
That's when I heard those 5 individuals talking to me.
Uh-huh.
Talking to us.
I got the timing wrong there. That was in 2013. Oh, okay.
That was in
Right.
2013
Right.
when the cabin site was found.
Yeah.
And the best way that I can explain it is Ron Moorhead Sierra Sounds.
Uh-huh.
That's all I can say. That's exactly. My friend Brad describes it as drunken biker.
As
And
what?
it was drunken biker.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And that's that. I swear to God, Jim, that's what we heard. There were 5 of us up there, and we all heard it, and we listened to it for a good 4 hours.
All right. So just to wrap this up, this is part 1 of an 8-part interview we're going to do in the future.
You're correct. Very good.
So why do you, matter of fact, my studio lights are burning out. Why do you think that no Bigfoot has ever been caught or captured? Do you have any ideas on that?
No, I
Yeah.
don't. In as much as that, I do not know what the Sasquatch phenomenon is, to reiterate.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Well, I commend you for that.
But the phenomenon is real.
Right. That's exactly what Stan Gordon said. He said the same thing. He said he would not be pressed to speculate on what it is. He says he simply doesn't know. But he said the same thing, just exactly what you did. It's real. There's something going on. Right.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why to go back on one thing that you talked about the mountain gorilla, the bird of paradise. You know why the bird of paradise is called the bird of paradise? Is because the bird of paradise, when it was first collected, by the time that the body got back to London, the legs had fallen off. And so it was thought that the bird lived and made it entirely without landing. And that's why it was called the bird of paradise.
Oh my God, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so it's the same thing.
Right, it's the same thing. There's been all sorts of animals that haven't been discovered for many, many years. Yeah, so,
Coelacanth, absolutely.
right.
Giant squid was what you were talking about. Same
Yeah,
thing.
3,000 years. Well, they only found it like 40 years ago. It's really amazing.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Mark, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this.
Me too.
Yeah. No, we will do it again for sure. As a matter of fact,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. As a matter of fact, if you want to get me Ellis's contact info, and I will put your pictures up on our blog too. I'll do that too.
Jim, you will very, very much enjoy a conversation with David Ellis. He has amazing recordings that you will very much enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, lost you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you can still hear me, but thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. I don't know what happened there. But yeah, I don't know if we just timed out or what the deal is. So that's Marc Myrsell. I'm gonna stare into the camera now. Yeah, I don't like to look in the camera during these interviews. I know that you're supposed to. I know all that sort of stuff. I want to look at his face. I'm asking questions and I want to know what the hell he thinks. And you do that by looking at people. And those of you who spend too much time on your phones, that's how life works. So I tell you what, because we've had a really long show tonight, I had a couple things. Let me just check them really quick. Can they wait till Monday? That I was going to bring up in our C block, which is always interesting here. One was about Taylor Swift's stalker. One was about, oh, this is kind of interesting. I tell you what, we'll talk about this later. This is about the use of lasers as weapons by the U.S. Navy. And that's pretty. I love the science shit, which is the reason Mark was on. And the final thing was about the fact that the helicopter on Mars that the NASA sent up flew its last flight a few days ago. So, and believe it or not, it did not run out of power. It kind of crashed, and they can't revive it. But they got way more flights out of it than they were expecting. I mean, they were only expecting 5, and I think they flew it 72 times, if I'm right. So anyway, yeah, that's that. So look, I hope you guys have a nice weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I got to admit, I really like talking to Mark. He's a pretty cool guy. And yes, the Bigfoot mystery continues. I got a good friend of mine watches this show. He thinks it's complete bullshit, total. He makes fun of me for talking to these people, but I don't know, man. Like I said to him, when enough people report enough shit and they don't know each other, you do kind of have to pay attention to it. I don't think everybody's lying. I don't think they are. Maybe I'm just naive. Who knows? Folks, we're coming back on Monday. Monday, the month in review panel. That would be Don Zuro, Tim Conaway, Larry Newman, and myself, and we're going to discuss the events of the month. And it's just a coffee clutch. It's just a bunch of men talking about their feelings. That's all it is. But anyway, hope you stick around for that. That's next Monday, and then we're taking the rest of the week off. If we do a show on Friday of February 2nd, I'll let you know on Monday. I'll let you know. I appreciate you watching very, very much. I love doing this. I hope you enjoy it. So good night, Esperanza. Good night, Uncle Donnie, and good night to you wherever you are. We'll see you on Monday. Have a nice weekend.